wanna know his secret?
Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Captain Tyler from the Tech Feed, and welcome to another episode of the Coding of the Interwebs. So today you can see today is a little bit of a different episode, and it might be a little bit of a shorter one. And we're going to be focusing on the argument of PHP versus JavaScript. Now those of you who are a little bit more experienced coders, you guys would know that I have not even dipped into HTML or CSS, and they're more advanced concepts. And the reason for that is that I really want to teach you guys some basic PHP and JavaScript so you guys can actually learn how to use this HTML. And I'll be going because quite a bit of it is useless without knowing one or the other of these languages. So here is what I will show you guys, what's the difference between them and which one you should learn. So PHP versus JavaScript, the argument of a developer of the interwebs. And so, why should you learn either one of them? So, for one thing, HTML doesn't do much on its own. I mean, yeah, it can display a web page, and with CSS you can style it, but it doesn't do much. You cannot ask people for information or anything of that sort. And HTML can only create static web pages. What this basically means is that nothing will change on your website. So yeah, and PHP and or JavaScript are required to process user input, so you can put like text boxes on your web page using HTML. However, to be able to process what the user puts in, you need either PHP or JavaScript. So here are some pros and cons about PHP. PHP is server-side, which can be both a pro and a con, depending on what you're using it for. PHP is more secure, and what that means is that anyone can view your JavaScript code, and I'll tell you why when we're going over JavaScript, but PHP code nobody can view. And it requires a refresh to run, so it's not like in JavaScript, if you create a web page and you have it so that you push a button and you wanted to do something, if you have PHP handling that, when you push the button the page will refresh and PHP will do it because it's server side. While JavaScript, because it's client side, when you push the button it won't, instead of refreshing the page, it will just it will do it without having to refresh. PHP has a C-style syntax, and what that means is that there are many different languages that are considered to have a C-style syntax, or the way you code the syntax is really similar to a major programming language called C, which just about everyone uses, either C or C++. So then we have it requires a PHP capable server, because server side requires a server that's capable of running it instead of a web browser that's capable of running it, which basically every web browser is capable of running JavaScript. So next, JavaScript. So here's some pros and cons about JavaScript. JavaScript is client-side, and what that means is that it only runs on your web browser. There's no server behind it, which allows it to do all of these things, such as be able to handle a button click or any other event like that without having to refresh the page. It's less secure, however, because it's client-side. The JavaScript code goes straight to your web browser and your web browser executes it. However, on PHP, because the code never goes to the web browser, the way it works is that you push a button, it refreshes the page, it goes to your server, and the server sends back HTML for your web browser to display. So your web browser does not even know that there's PHP going on in the background. And JavaScript can produce dynamic content. In other words, it can allow you to change things on the screen without needing a refresh, while PHP it doesn't. And it's non-C style syntax, which, I mean, it's definitely not a pro, but but some people won't care if this is their first language. But if you've learned virtually any other language, it's probably C style syntax, because lots of languages, even Java, is C-style syntax. And there's no server required for JavaScript because it's client-side, and every single client can run JavaScript nowadays. So Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Internet Explorer, everything, Opera, basically everything. And in conclusion, what should you do? You should use both, because both of them are good at their own things. If you want to write a web game, you probably don't want to do that in PHP, because with PHP you will have to refresh every single time you want to change something on the screen. While if you want something with JavaScript, you can, well, if you want something like accessing a database or processing forum information, it's way easier to do that in PHP. You can still do it in JavaScript, but it's easier to do it in PHP. Now, both languages are amazing for processing information, and each has its own advantages and disadvantages. So, in other words, you should basically be using whatever you think is best for whatever you're going to be using it for. So, this is the end of the episode, guys. So, this is a little bit of a shorter episode than usual, but this is still a very important episode, and it's still something that you guys need to know. Now, I will be teaching both inside of the coding of the interwebs. However, you may notice me using PHP a little bit more heavily because that's what I'm comfortable with because of its C-style syntax. However, JavaScript does have its place, and I will be using it and teaching it inside of this series. Anyways, guys, never ever cut the feed of tech.